we have collected over 3,000 data points for the Candy Cram-o-matic. And this is the most data points we've ever received for any research. So thank you to everyone who submitted your data. And I'm here today to present to you the final results from the Candy Cram-o-matic event that happened during the Summer Festival of June 2024 in Pokemon Sleep. There were several individuals who submitted every data point 4 times a day for the 7 days. Special shout out to these people: Pokey, Terotic, Fizzman, Renzro, Ryu, Sneaks Beast, Alpha Therodon, Mungant, Riker, Adisige, Kinsugi, Kerbear, Dockster, Lieutenant Boa, and Midori, and then many more results following that. And I can't go through everyone, but I appreciate all of your efforts. And a special shout out once again to /Burner, who helped us with checking the data and then analyzing the results. The data will become available for public viewing after this video is released. I'll leave a link in the comments section below if you guys want to play around with the data to see what kind of extra information you can get out of it, because to be frank, there's just so much data, we couldn't go through every single thing. But I'll give you guys a summary in this video. Now, even as I'm making this video, the data keeps rolling in, the responses just increased. So the numbers may vary very slightly as I go through this video. Don't worry too much about slight variations that can happen. So first summary, out of 3,900 responses, only about 37 of you had erroneously put in the data, which is very impressive. In other words, most of the data was accurately put in. We calculated the total, and in the end, most data had 40 candies. Very few didn't add up to 40 candies, which didn't make sense, and those data were excluded from this analysis. You will be able to see the erroneous data yourself if you make a copy of this document. This is the spread of the people who had picked 1 use, 2 use, 3 use, or 4 use of the Cram-o-matic. This diagram doesn't actually mean anything, and the reason is that people who had picked their 4th use. So 352 results included 4 users of the Candy Cram-o-matic. But those people who used it 4 times would have also had to use it 3 times, 2 times, and 1 time to get there. So this number is a little bit undervalued. It's not 9% of people who used it 4 times. It is actually about 12% of the times the Candy Cram-o-matic was used 4 times. About 42% of the times it was only used 3 times, 27% of the time it was used 2 times, and 5% of the time it was used 1 time. So I have it written down here. I don't have a graphical format of this. I didn't think it was that important, but if you were interested, very few times was the Candy Cram-o-matic only used 1 time. That makes sense because the Candy Cram-o-matic is really good value if you use it up to 2 times. 3 times is up to you, 4 times for the people who have a lot of dream shards. So that makes a lot of sense. A lot of people used it at least 3 times, so that's a good thing. That's what we expected. And sometimes it was used either 4 or 2 times. For those of you who's actually interested in looking at the spreadsheet, in the form responses are basically raw data that got fed through from the forms to this spreadsheet. Data checking is where we pull the same data, put it onto this spreadsheet so that we don't play around with the raw data, but it's exactly the same thing for the first part, what all of this is. And then if you scroll across, you'll start to see some of our analysis and our data checking. So 37 responses did not have the correct data. We excluded those. And then we looked at the total percentage chance of a great success, and out of 3,903 data points, we got about 16% of great success. There may be a slight increase with the number of users of the Candy Cram-o-matic. So you can see the split here, 15, 16, 16, 18%. This may not be significant because, as you can see, as we got to bigger numbers, the number of data points we got was much lower. So this may not be significant, but it's interesting to see anyway. Since the difference is so small, I'm just going to take it as 16% flat rate for great success. Now, don't worry too much about the stuff down here. We're going to skip through all of that. That's just for us to sort out the data. And then if you come across to this side, what you can see is the total number of data points that fed 40 of the same type of candy. And you can see the split between the first, second, third, and fourth use as well. But we only included data that had 40 of the same type candy to keep this analysis simple. If you guys want to look into the split candies, there's still not enough data on that for us to make much of a conclusion, but I welcome you guys to take a look and see if it's something like each one candy you fed is worth 0.8% chance of the same type candy or something like that. But let's move on. What was the most commonly used candy for the Cram-o-matic? And you guessed it, it is Wobbuffet with 1,350 data points. In other words, 1,350 times 40, 54,000 Wobbuffet candies were sacrificed for this event. So our most accurate data is for Wobbuffet, followed by Sudowoodo in second place with 790 data points. And then in third place, very close to each other, we have Meowth, Lucario, Jigglypuff, and to my slight surprise, Rattata Candies. I didn't think Rattata was a bad Pokemon. Maybe yes, it's common. There is an abundance of Rattata and it can be converted to Eevee Candies, which a lot of people like. But I think Rattata is a decent Pokemon, so I'm not sure why a lot of people were trading those in. In approximate fourth place, we have Psyduck, Gulpin, Growlithe, and Togepi, which are not too surprising, even though I recommended people against using Gulpin candies in case it ever becomes useful. And then finally, we have very low usage of all the other Pokemon. Some were never fed, so Heracross, Pinsir, understandably Dedenne, Mareep, they were never fed as 40 candies to the Cram-o-matic. Delibird, Doduo, Kangaskhan, Totodile. Understandably, with Suicune coming up, nobody fed Totodile candies. Ralts candies, never used. Snova candies, never used. Cyndaquil candies, never used. And of course, you guys can look at this table yourself. So with these candies used, what was the rate of the same type candy being produced? The overall percentage is here. Approximately 1,200 out of 3,200 data points had same type candy generated, so 36.1%, with once again slight increases with each use. 35% with the first use, 36% with the second use, 35 again third use, but then 39 for the fourth use. And again, the data points are lower at the higher usage, so it's a little less accurate there. So I would take that with a grain of salt, but on average, we're looking at about 36% same type candy. Now, at this point, you might question, well, besides the same type candy, did every other candy have equal chance to appear? I mean, we had a theory that they all had equal chance to appear, but could it be possible that Wobbuffet might have a better chance at giving flying candy than other types of candy besides the psychic type? Was there any correlation there? So what you can do is you can come up to the top of this form and actually change the Pokemon you want to look at. And we're going to look at Wobbuffet because we got the most data points for Wobbuffet, and then look at the split of each type of candy generated from Wobbuffet. So Wobbuffet gave about 4% bug, 3% dark, 4% dragon, and you can see that they all range about 3 to 4%, which seems pretty normal. It looks like a pretty even split. Besides psychic type, everything was about 3 to 4%. And the other candy that we can look at is Sudowoodo, which also had a lot more data points than some other Pokemon. We've got 790 Sudowoodo data points, and it seems that Sudowoodo also range about 3 to 4%, with one data point that seemed to stand out a little bit more above 5% with dark type candy being produced. But I wouldn't say that's a huge difference, probably just by chance that happened. So you guys can play around this feature yourself. Other Pokemon that have low data points would produce very strange looking data, like this, for example, like Geodude, because there's only 12 data points submitted. So there's not even enough data points to cover every single candy type. So that's why it looks like that. So mostly insignificant for low data point Pokemon. And then there's another little fun feature over here in the far right. So this one here includes any data that used only 2 candies, whether it be a half-half split, so 20 candies, or 39 to 1 split, anything in between. So this doesn't actually tell us too much. Now, because most cases use Wobbuffet and Sudowoodos as the split candies, we can see that in this scenario, Psychic and Rock would have the most chance to be generated from using split candies. You can actually put in other Pokemon yourself, but of course you might not get a significant data because there's so many combinations of different Pokemon you can feed into the Cram-o-matic. Besides using Wobbuffet and Sudowoodo, you might not see much of a significant result. So let's say we use Jigglypuff and Sudowoodo, and if you wait for the form to load, there's only 4 data points that had these 2 candies used. One of the data points got Rock Candy, one of them got Electric, 2 of them got Fairy, which isn't too far from the expectation. One interesting data point, if you scroll down on this form, there's one person who submitted one of every candy 40 times. And you can see that data point if you scroll down and you see a line that goes very far across, and it's not this person. This person did a lot of different candies as well. So that person is Irupki, who submitted one of 40 types of candies, and in the end they got a Dark Candy M. And yes, they did actually put in one dark type candy in there, and that was, I think, Sableye. If you guys are interested, you can look at this yourself to see if they put in a bunch more dark types than they did other types. And now that we know the great success is about 16% chance, how does that change my analysis of the Dream Shard cost regarding Candy Cram-o-matic versus Candy Boost? If you remember from my previous video, I compared Candy Cram-o-matic versus Candy Boost. Where should you use your Dream Shards? Now, I had 2 people question me about how this chart worked. Now, let me just clarify. This chart is to look at the Dream Shard cost to generate 1 free candy. And you can do that theoretically with a Candy Boost feature. Yes, it requires you to actually level up the Pokemon, but you can actually look at the cost to generate that free candy that you get, and it's 2 times the Dream Shard. So it's comparing 2 times the Dream Shard cost at each level versus the Dream Shard cost to generate a free candy using the Candy Cram-o-matic. Now, there was a second concern in the comment section in the last video about this. Someone had said I should have used a non-cumulative data as opposed to a cumulative data. So what I was doing here is that I looked at the Dream Shard cost to generate that candy, but I averaged it out over the 4 use. Now, it's okay to do it either way, depends on what you're comparing. If I'm comparing the Candy Cram-o-matic versus Candy Boost, I'm looking at the whole feature and how much it cost. I'm not looking at the 4th use of the Candy Cram-o-matic versus Candy Boost. So if you want to look at how much more it costs you for the next use, that's a different analysis. So this analysis is just Candy Boost versus Candy Cram-o-matic. So now that I've included the chance for great success rate, 16%. So previously, you would get 25 candies using 1000 Dream Shards in your first use of the Candy Cram-o-matic. Now we multiply the 25 candies by 1.16 because on average we get 16% more candies. So you can see the Dream Shard cost for using the Candy Cram-o-matic one time has gone down to what was previously, without this multiplier, 40 Dream Shards per 1 candy generated. Now it is 34 Dream Shards per candy generated. If you use it all 4 times in a day, you get 100 candies because you get 4 candies from the Candy Cram-o-matic, and each candy M is 25 candies, therefore 100, but of course 100 times 1.16, which is the great success rate. Well, now we take the total cost, the cumulative Dream Shard cost per candy generated is 526 Dream Shards per candy. And then we look at the Dream Shard cost of the Candy Boost feature, and we look at the break-even points, which has changed compared to the last time we did this analysis, and it's gone down. The break-even points are now at level 47, level 30, level 11, and level 2. So most people would be above level 11 with their Pokemon that they want to invest. So using the Candy Cram-o-matic 2 times makes a lot of sense instead of using the Candy Boost. Of course, you can always use both. Before level 30, it's better to use the Candy Boost feature instead of the Cram-o-matic feature 3 times. If you use the Cram-o-matic 4 times, it is only worth it above level 47 if you're investing in a Pokemon that's level 47 onwards. So again, it doesn't actually make that much financial sense to be using Candy Cram-o-matic 4 times. But if you have unlimited shards, you would use them both to the max, which is what I'm doing. Make sure to congratulate yourselves in the comment section below if you contributed data to this analysis, and appreciate your efforts, and I hope we keep this relationship going into the future. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to this channel. And the next video, we're going to talk about Tasty Chance S. Does Dedenne and Cramorant actually make sense with their skills?